sound mass, and cinematic influence. This presentation is presented by Atika Musani, Audrey Aidwin, Abib Ibrahim, and Akila Najwa.
Have you ever listened to something that felt dense but hard to describe? Well, sound mass is a musical texture where many sound events happen at the same time and sit very close together in time or frequency. Instead of focusing on individual notes, you experience the sound as a whole. You are not really meant to follow a melody here. At first, it can feel confusing, but that feeling is actually very common in 20th century and contemporary music. Now, what's interesting is how sound mass works in films. It has a strong cinematic influence because it creates mood and emotional tension rather than clear melodies. So instead of telling you what to feel, it kind of lets the feeling build on its own. Think about horror film or psychological thrillers for a second. Even when nothing is happening, the tension is already there. And because of that, film composers use sound mass techniques all the time. This includes tone clusters, slow crescendo and decrescendos, and glissandi in the strings. These sounds creep in gradually. You might not even notice them at first, but somehow your body reacts anyway.
So now, let's talk a bit about Georgi Ligeti. He was a Hungarian composer born in 1923 in Transylvania. Ligeti started studying music at a very young age. He composed his first piece when he was 14. Early on, he was influenced by Bartok, Stravinsky, and folk music. Later, he decided to break away from all of that. He thought to himself, why keep following rules if they limit what sound can do? With that question, it shaped his entire career.
When it's come to his music, Ligeti focused more on texture and timbre than on clear melody or harmony. He developed techniques like sound mass and micropolyphony to move away from traditional musical rules. At the same time, his music changes very slowly. It might feel static, but if you listen closely, it is always shifting in color and density. Micropolyphony. What is that? Basically, there are many independent musical lines moving at slightly different rhythms at the same time. They sit so close together that they blend into one dense texture. Like this one. You do not really hear individual lines anymore. Can you tell where one ends and another begins? Usually you cannot. And that is exactly the point.
Now, this is where film and Ligeti really come together. His music was famously used in 2001, A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick chose Ligeti's works because they created an eerie, mysterious, and otherworldly atmosphere. Let's take a moment to hear it. Pieces like Atmosphere and Lux Eterna use dense texture and dissonance to create tension and awe. That was something Kubrick clearly wanted the audience to feel. So, Ligetti's music often feels vast, distant, and almost non-human. It does not guide emotion in an obvious way. You kind of feel lost in it.
Now, at this point, you might be wondering why we hear these sounds as texture instead of melody. But before that, what does it mean by hearing sounds as textures? As we all know, not all sounds have a clear pitch. Textured sounds focuses on timbre, color, and mass instead of pitch progression. Therefore, when many of them are layered together, melody becomes difficult to follow. So, your brain stops chasing notes. Instead, it reacts to the overall feeling. In complex or noisy environments, the brain naturally groups sounds together. It does this to make sense of everything at once. So, we start hearing sound as a surface or a mass. Contemporary and experimental music use this idea intentionally. Ligeti fully embraced this way of listening.
So, to wrap things up, first, Ligeti showed that music does not need melody to be powerful. Through micropolyphony, many independent lines blends into one dense sound mass. Second, instead of following note, we experience texture and slow change. Hence, why Ligeti music worked very well in 2001 is Best Odyssey. Last but not least, as listeners, we share a social experience where sounds surround us and shape how we feel, even without a clear tune. And of course, that is how sound becomes texture.
And that is all from us. Thank you for watching.